Democratic Congressman Khanna. He's a member of the Budget and Armed Services Committees. He's from California, joining us from Capitol Hill, getting ready to vote. You won't be voting for this short-term spending bill, I understand. Why not vote for this continuing resolution, as it's called now, to ensure that the children's health insurance funding continues for 6 years, allows 9 million kids, poor kids in America, to have health insurance, and work on the Dreamers in the next month or so, because there's really a March deadline?
Well, Wolf, we've been talking about working on the Dreamers time and time again, and Judge Aslop just ruled that the president's decision was illegal. What's at stake here is not an issue of immigration. It's about our government's word. We promised a number of DACA kids that if they gave their information to the government, if they paid a fee, then we would give them a status in this country. And just because the president switches doesn't mean the United States doesn't have to live up to its word. So for many of us, it's a matter of our government's credibility to people who we made a promise, and we just had a recent federal court judge affirm that logic.
The federal court, that judge said that the program could continue, although the Trump administration, the Justice Department, is now taking it to a higher court as well as immediately to the Supreme Court. We don't know what the bottom line decision is going to be. But if there is a government shutdown, the president says the Democrats will take the blame, and the president also says the Democrats want a government shutdown, so to distract from the great achievements, he says, the American people will get from the tax cuts.
Well, that's just not true, because if tomorrow there was a clean vote on the DACA, a Clean Dream Act, I would vote for funding to continue government. So certainly we don't want a shutdown. And Wolf, as you know, because you've covered a lot of these shutdowns, one point is that when one party controls government, the last time we had a shutdown was in the days of Jimmy Carter. All the other recent shutdowns, there's been split government. And really, one has to ask, if this president is such a deal maker, why has he not been able to run a competent government that you have to go back 40 years for the last time we've had a shutdown when you've had one-party control?
You serve on the Armed Services Committee, Congressman. Last month, the Defense Department Comptroller said that he cannot, and I'm quoting him now, cannot emphasize too much how destructive a shutdown is. Are you worried about the possible ripple effects on the U.S. military, civilian personnel at the Department of Defense, contractors?
Well, I think as Gloria pointed out, the military, the essential military, will still be on duty, but I am very worried and concerned about the way we're funding government with continuing resolution after continuing resolution. When you talk to our military leaders, and anyone on the committee would tell you that, Republican or Democrat, they say this is no way to plan for serious conflict. We've got a threat with North Korea. We've got numerous threats in the Middle East. Our military need us to pass a budget so that they can plan and have the resources. And all of us want that. And it's embarrassing for us not to be able to come to some agreement. It's a bipartisan committee, and we very much want to be able to give them a budget.
You're right about the U.S. military. The uniformed military personnel would receive all their benefits, all their salary. They're not going anywhere. They're essential. But civilian personnel, hundreds of thousands of them, who work at the Department of Defense elsewhere, many of them wouldn't be working. They wouldn't be getting paid, and that would undermine, presumably, national security, right?
It would. I mean, there is definitely a risk that a lot of the contractors, a lot of the civilian support will not be getting paid. And as you know, in some of the places, like in Afghanistan, we rely heavily on contractors. And a lot of the civilian corps is the one that's helping doing the humanitarian work, the building the schools, helping people. So it certainly hurts the United States. That's why no one in this building wants a shutdown. But there's a solution, and that is just allow the United States government to keep the word we made to the Dreamers. Let me give a very simple analogy. It would be like if you bought something from a business and then the CEO changed. That doesn't mean that your warranty with the business would no longer exist. But we've had a change of president, but the United States has honored the promise that the government has made. We made these kids a promise. We should keep it.
Congressman Khanna of California, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Will, for having me.
Thank you. That's it for me. Thanks very much for watching.